Welcome, delegates, to Track 1, Technology and Teacher Professional Development. Let's welcome the first presenter, Muhammad Yusri Luqman bin Muhammad Rusli, with his final year project titled The Use of Quizzes and Interactive Platforms to Increase Students' Engagement in an Online Classroom.
Greetings and salutations to everyone. My name is Muhammad Yusri Luqman, and I will be presenting my topic for my final year project. The topic in question is the use of quizzes and interactive platforms to increase students' engagement in an online classroom. Okay, for my problem statement is the lack of students' engagement in an online classroom. I have two research objectives. The first one is to examine the effectiveness of quizzes and interactive platforms towards students' engagement. The second one is to determine whether the use of quizzes and interactive platforms help with students' engagement. And for my research question, I have three. Why do quizzes and interactive platforms provide an added incentive for students' engagement in an online classroom? Second one, how does it help to increase students' engagement in an online classroom? The final one, how can quizzes and interactive platforms be used with students' engagement during an online classroom? For my literature review, past research does indicate that online quizzes and interactive platforms do help with students' engagement, and I have concluded based on my literature review as well. For my methodology, I use three. The first one is content analysis, which is based on past research. Second one is quantitative research using survey questionnaire from 38 respondents among pre-service teachers using Google Form. The final one is qualitative research using structured interview on a group of pre-service teachers using Google Form as well. Here are my results and findings for that. The past research, as I mentioned in my literature review, it has been found that the three research says that quiz help with engagement, although a bit limited. For the questionnaire, amongst all the participants, 64% of participants have increased response in class after the usage of quizzes or interactive platforms. For structured interview, I found out that amongst the group of pre-service teachers, they found out that using the students' competitive nature does help encourage participation and in turn help with students' engagement during the classroom as well. It also helped that I also found out that quiz and interactive platforms contain fun elements based on their response, and from that it helps with engagement as well. For my conclusion, I have concluded that based on past research and the data provided, that quizzes and interactive platforms do indeed help with students' engagement. However, this only applies to online classroom. Future research may be required for physical classroom. Thank you, and that is all from me.
Next presenter, Daniel Bu Wei En, with his final year project titled The Perceptions of Pre-Service Teachers Regarding the Use of YouTube Videos for English Lessons.
Hello and a good day I bid to everyone. My name is Daniel Bu Wei En and I will be presenting to you my final year project, which is The Perceptions of Pre-Service Teachers Regarding the Use of YouTube Videos in English Lessons. The purpose of this study is to delve deeper into the practice of using YouTube videos in English lessons so that it can be more effectively employed. Now, the issue that I faced during my teaching practice was, in an online classroom, traditional teaching methods were not relevant. Hence, there was a need to search for new methods to create a more academically productive learning environment. One of the methods I found was the use of YouTube videos in English lessons. However, being a new method to me, I needed to find out more regarding this practice. Moving on to the objectives of this research, the first objective is to investigate the perceptions of pre-service teachers regarding the use of YouTube videos in English lessons. The second objective is to study the challenges faced by pre-service teachers when using YouTube videos in English lessons. The research questions are in line with the objectives, which are, firstly, what are the perceptions of pre-service teachers regarding the use of YouTube videos in English lessons? Secondly, what are the challenges faced by pre-service teachers when using YouTube videos in English lessons? Moving on to the literature review, there are a few key points that I would like to highlight. Firstly, the use of YouTube was found to be highly motivating for students. Secondly, YouTube videos were able to provide an authentic input for students. However, there are a few difficulties found when implementing this practice. Firstly, there was a need for a good internet connectivity. Secondly, there was difficulty in selecting videos that were appropriate and suitable for the English lessons. Moving on to the methodology, this research adopts a mixed method approach which integrates both quantitative and qualitative data. Both the data are analyzed accordingly before interpreted as a whole. Moving on to the instruments used were a survey and an interview. The survey involved 30 pre-service teachers from the TESOL course of Sultan Idris Education University, while the interview involved 5 participants from the same demographic. Moving on to the findings, it was found that the pre-service teachers perceived that the use of YouTube videos could attract students' attention, make English lessons more engaging, and help students understand better. However, there were a few challenges faced by the pre-service teachers. Firstly, they needed a stable and strong internet connectivity to display the videos. Secondly, they needed to select videos which were appropriate, relevant, interesting, and suitable for their students. So to conclude, the use of YouTube videos should be implemented to introduce new concepts so that students can get a clearer picture. The use of YouTube videos should also be incorporated into lessons to make English lessons more authentic and engaging for the students. However, keep in mind that this implementation of YouTube videos may be time-consuming, as more time is spent in selecting videos that fit the criteria to be used for English lessons. And with that, thank you for your time.
Next presenter, Adriana Zafira binti Hasnul with her final year project titled The Use of Online Teaching Tools by Pre-Service Teachers to Increase Students' Participation in ESL Classrooms.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Adriana Zafira binti Hasnul and I'll be presenting my final year project title, which is the use of online teaching tools used by pre-service teachers to increase students' participation in ESL classrooms. Since the outbreak of the virus COVID-19, it has caused many setbacks to the world, including in the education field. In regards to that, the school had to carry out online to ensure students are not missing out on receiving the knowledge they deserve. However, because it's conducted online, more problems and issues arose, such as the lack of students' participation during lessons. Hence, the study is aimed to identify the types of online teaching tools and the impacts of using online teaching tools used by the pre-service teachers to increase students' participation in the ESL classrooms. Moving on to the literature review, I can conclude that online teaching tools are one of the contributing factors to students' participation during online classes. There are plenty of types of online teaching tools that the pre-service teachers have utilized in their lessons, such as Kahoot, Quizzes, Padlet, Google Classroom, WordWall, and so on. It is undeniable that the growth of technology has facilitated English language learning to the extent of the use of technology in English language learning has shown an unequivocal significance. As for the methodology, a mixed method is used to identify the research objectives. The data gathering instruments consisted of a questionnaire survey and 5 structured interviews conducted among 30 TESOL pre-service teachers. The findings from the study show that the majority of participants always implemented online teaching tools in ESL classrooms for many reasons such as ease of access, the usefulness of the tools, and the ease of use, meaning that the online teaching tools that the pre-service teachers implemented in classrooms are easy to access, develop, and also adapt. Online teaching tools are also regarded as a great medium to promote a better teaching and learning process. Consequently, online teaching tools utilization in the ESL classroom has brought many positive impacts. For instance, online teaching tools have helped students engage and participate actively in the lessons, and students are also motivated, enthusiastic to learn when the tools are being utilized. This has increased teacher-student talk, which could contribute to learning objectives being optimized. As for future research, I believe the most effective way to present this issue is by collecting data from the student's perspective itself. This is for the reason that this will enable the researcher to have more groundwork to begin with. With students' data, we can observe the extent of the effectiveness of incorporating online teaching tools in ESL classrooms. In a nutshell, the implementation of online teaching tools in ESL classroom is greatly recommended for the positive impacts it possesses. In this era, it is important for the teachers to move along with the current technologies so that we can foster a new learning environment for our students.
And that's all for me. Thank you for watching.
Next presenter, Noor Aina Najiha binti Suryanto with her final year project titled The Use of Audiovisual Aids in ESL Classroom.
Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. My name is Noor Aina Najiha binti Suryanto and my metric ID is D201810825889. So today I will be presenting my final year project with the title of The Use of Audiovisual Aids in the ESL Classroom. So firstly, problem statement. In this modern world, the teaching using technology is one of the teaching methods teachers can use. However, the use of audiovisual aids are often underutilized by the teachers since the preparation of searching and making the aids consumes a lot of time, even though the use of these aids can encourage their class participation. Hence, this research is important to understand the effectiveness of the audiovisual aids after implementing them in the class. So for this research, I am focusing on two research objectives, which are to identify the implications for using audiovisual aids in the ESL classroom and to investigate the students' improvement in participation in the ESL classroom after the implementation of audiovisual aids. And for the research questions, I will also be focusing on two research questions, which are what are the implications for using audiovisual aids in the ESL classroom, and lastly, how does the use of audiovisual aids in the class affect the students' participation in the ESL classroom? Moving on to the literature review, the use of audiovisual aids can assist the teachers during the teaching process. According to Al-Mamun 2014, the audiovisual aids can connect the dots between verbal and non-verbal communication, which is why the use of audiovisual aids can help the teacher to explain the topic using the aids. Other than that, according to Majumder 2019, students' participation is better when the teacher uses audiovisual aids in the class, and they even obtain much higher grades compared to before the use of these aids. Next, for methodology, I have employed a qualitative type of research which I then use to analyze the data by using thematic analysis. This research also involved Form 2 students from SMK Kinabalu 2 as the participants. In this research, I have used a few instruments to collect the data such as classroom observations, field notes, and transcriptions of the lesson. From my research, the first finding showed that the implications on the use of audiovisual aids are students are more responsive after the implementations of these aids compared to before the implementation. Next, the implications also showed that the use of these aids can assist the teacher during teaching. The teacher managed to use the audiovisual aids smoothly, which are related to the topic of the lesson. Next findings show that the use of audiovisual aids are able to encourage the students' participations in the class. Before implementing the video in the lesson, the students were not energetic and were reluctant to answer the questions from the teacher. However, after the implementation of these aids, the students managed to answer the questions and also be more participative in the class. In conclusion, the use of audiovisual aids in the teaching and learning process is very important since it will encourage the students' participations in the class, which is very crucial in any classroom setting, especially in the online learning. There are many types of videos and also many types of teaching methods using videos that the teacher can use for the students. Therefore, every teacher should include various audiovisual materials in order to grab the attention of the students, which will encourage their understanding of the lesson. That's all from me. Thank you.
Next presenter, Muhammad Fakhrul Aiman bin Asman, with his final year project titled The Use of WhatsApp by Pre-Service Teachers to Increase ESL Students' Participation in Learning During Pandemic.
Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. My name is Muhammad Fakhrul Aiman bin Azman, a final year student from University Pendidikan Sultan Idris, majoring in teaching English as a second language. This video is created to present the title and contents of my research studies of this semester. Before we begin, the title of my research paper is The Use of WhatsApp by Pre-Service Teachers to Increase ESL Students' Participation in Learning During Pandemic. And this study was done under the supervision of Associate Professor Dr. Charanjit Kaur of Language and Communication Faculty UPSI. The purpose of this research is to understand the difficulties faced by pre-service teachers and students, especially in challenging situations such as the pandemic. My first research objective is to examine the challenges and problems faced by pre-service teachers and ESL students in using WhatsApp platform learning, to determine the advantage and disadvantage for students when using WhatsApp platform learning, and to find out how WhatsApp platform can increase ESL students' participation in learning. The research questions that associated with my studies are as the following. Why did pre-service teachers use WhatsApp platform to teach ESL students during pandemic? How did the use of WhatsApp increase students' participation in learning during pandemic? What are the challenges faced by pre-service teachers and students using WhatsApp platform for learning during pandemic? The methodology that has been applied in this particular research was the mixed data gathering method, where I've collected several data in both forms of qualitative and quantitative before analyzing, rearranging, and presented in descriptive writing on the paper. The instrument that I have used to collect this data was a set of questionnaire survey, an interview session transcriptions, and 4 weeks worth of teachers' reflective entry. In the findings, I have presented the demographic of my research, which was 20 Form 2 ESL learners with intermediate proficiency level and a pre-service teacher from another school. From the survey, the analyzed data show numerous responses provided by the respondents that shows a positive alignment with the intervention introduced to them. To sum it up, I found that more than half of the respondents has agreed with the method of replacing WhatsApp as the new learning platform, opposing to the conventional method of using online meeting platform such as Google Meet, Webex, Zoom meeting, and so on. The interview session and reflective entry also provided a parallel consensus with the early findings. It was noted that the interviewee stated several clues pointing towards a positive outcome regarding students' participation in class after the same intervention has been applied to his class as well. Apart from that, the reflective entry also offered a supporting statement in terms of students' participation as well. The limitation to this study are some of the data gathering process was quite difficult due to the reason of this research has been started right in the middle of COVID-19 pandemic. Before concluding my video, I would like to thank every person that has been involved in this research, and I hope that this research could be materialized as soon as possible in order to make way for further study on the concerning matters of students' participation in ESL classroom can be done. I think that is all from me. Thank you for watching.
Next presenter, Afli Gabriel Ahmad, with his final year project titled The Use of Quizzes to Increase Students' Participation in an Online Class During English Lesson.
Hello and good day, I bid to everyone. My name is Afli Gabriel Ahmad, and today I will be presenting about my FYP entitled The Use of Quizzes to Increase Students' Participation in an Online Class During English Lesson. The study was conducted due to the lack of students' engagement and participation in online class during English lesson due to unattractive classroom activity. I have three research objectives and research questions. The first one is to investigate the factors that influence the pre-service teacher to use quizzes in an online classroom. The second one is to identify the advantages and disadvantages of quizzes. And the third one is to identify the features of quizzes that can attract students' participation in an online class during English lesson. My research questions are: what are the factors that influence the ESL teacher to use quizzes? Second one is, how do ESL learners benefit from the quizzes? And the third one is, what are the features that quizzes can offer to attract students' participation in an online class during English lesson? According to Zhao 2019, quizzes enable learners to alter students' way of solving problems, enhancing thinking skills, and improving students' participation in classroom activities. And according to Zuria and Pratolo 2020, quizzes is one of the best formative or summative assessment tools as it touch students' learning development, as the gamified learning material is something that is familiar to the learners, and as well as the fun and interactive factors that quizzes has to offer. Research conducted by May, Ju, and Adam 2018 shows that using quizzes as teaching tools in teaching and learning process can help make the class more interesting, and it is a great tool to attract students' attention in online class. I use qualitative method to obtain data for this research. From the qualitative method, I use four instruments, namely interview, teacher reflective entry, classroom observation checklist, and video recording. There are three students who participated for the interview session. The interview recording was recorded using Google Meet for the researchers' data, and the reflective entry was used to identify the factor that influenced the researcher to use quizzes in an online class during English lesson. And moving on to the result and finding, for the first research question, the factor that influenced the pre-service teacher to use quizzes is gamified teaching method, and the second one is it triggers students' interest, and this align with the researchers' expectation when the interview session mentioned that the students were happy and excited to learn whenever quizzes are introduced. And the second research question, based on the data obtained, quizzes help to increase students' motivation, help students to understand the lesson, and it is a new learning style for the students. The new learning style insignificantly increased students' participation as the teaching material used was new to the students, and this rose their curiosity. And for the third research question, the feature that attracts students' participation in an online class was memes, interesting interference, and also a ranking system. The researcher believe that when students are in a good mood, they will be able to learn in a safe and comfortable setting. And based on the data obtained, the ranking system was one of the interesting features to the students. And to conclude this study, based on the data obtained, the factor that influenced the researcher to use quizzes in an online classroom English lesson are due to its features that enable the researchers to conduct gamified teaching method. And the limitation that the researcher was able to identify while conducting this research is the lack of students' resources such as smartphone and also the internet connection problem. The suggestion for future research is to allocate a budget to buy the upgraded version of quizzes and to prolong the research period. That is all from me. Thank you.
Next presenter, Faiz Hakimi bin Muhammad with his final year project titled The Use of Technology in Learning English to Enhance Students' Experience in ASL Classroom.
Assalamualaikum and good day to everyone. So my name is Faiz Hakimi bin Muhammad and the title of this research is The Use of Technology in Learning English to Enhance Students' Experience in the ESL Classroom. Alright, so the introduction of this research is my problem statement here is students were too passive and had difficulties comprehending my instructions. Alright, so I tried to implement technology in my lessons by using interactive websites. Okay, and finally I got a positive feedback from my students. For my research questions of this research, number one, what are the benefits of using technology in the ESL classroom? And number two, what are the elements that the teacher considers in selecting the suitable technology in the ESL classroom? For my research objective, number one is to identify the benefits of using technology in the ESL classroom, and number two, to investigate the elements that the teacher considers in selecting the suitable technology in the ESL classroom. Technology is closely related to an interactive teaching. Okay, so an effective interactive teaching is crucial to be implemented by the English teacher, and it is more focused on the learning outcomes. It could also push learners to be more active in class, and using technology in the classroom could ensure an excellent environment to maintain students' motivation to learn English. For the methodology in this research, I use quantitative method data collection. Of course, I use questionnaire, and it is in Google Forms, and there are 11 participants, 5 experienced teachers, and 6 trainee teachers. And my questions consist of 3 sections, which is the demographic background, the benefits of using technology, and the elements that the teacher considers while selecting the technology. And for the result of my questionnaire, I convert it to percentage and average in graph. Alright, so for my findings, research question 1, what are the benefits of using technology in the ESL classroom? Most of my participants agree that there are 4 benefits of implementing technology. Number 1, it could offer more tool variation and help the teacher to be more flexible in delivering their lessons. Number 2, it could help the teachers integrate a reliable material. Number 3, it could enhance students' motivation and engagement in the classroom. And lastly, it could boost students' interaction and communications. Between these four benefits, the participants agree that technology could offer more tool variation and help the teacher to be more flexible in delivering their lessons, and it could enhance students' motivation and engagement in a classroom. The result between these two are draw. For research question number 2, the participants really concerned about the technology that can insert picture, audio, and video, and also it is free to use and can assess students' work while using the technology. That is all from me. Thank you.
Next presenter, Siti Noor Akila binti Juso, with her final year project titled The Use of Google Slides to Teach Reading Skills in ESL Classroom.
Assalamualaikum and a very good day I bid everyone. My name is Sitina Akila binti Juso, a semester 7 thesis student in UPSI. I would like to present my action research with the title The Use of Google Slides to Teach Reading Skills in ESL Classroom. In the 21st century classroom, technology makes everything more fun and easy to develop interactive activities. However, most students also had difficulties following the activities for specific skills in the classroom that were directed to them. Since I am focusing on reading skills, I found out that the level of proficiency among the students and how short their attention was on the reading activities, especially when it involves a reading text. Hence, the students are always so quick to lose their interest in reading. The research objectives for my research are to investigate the significance of Google Slides in an ESL classroom and also to identify the impacts of Google Slides to teach reading skills in ESL classroom. For the research questions, I came up with what and how. The first one is what. What are the uses of Google Slides in an ESL classroom? The second one is how. How does the use of Google Slides improve students' reading skills in an ESL classroom? For the research design that I used was an action research. Here you can see the circle of an action research design. First, planning. Second, action. Third, analysis. And the fourth one, the end, the conclusion. As for the participants, they were formed two, consisting of 25 female students in an all-girls secondary school located in Kelantan. The instruments that I used to collect the data were classroom observation checklists and teachers' reflective entry. For the classroom observation checklist, it was prepared before the classroom observation was carried out. Then the collected data was analyzed qualitatively using thematic analysis. The findings of this research suggested that the Google Slides can be used by teachers as a tool in ESL classrooms. It can help teachers to achieve better teaching in reading skills. There are some limitations found in this research, which are limited to only one urban secondary school. The students were not exposed to 21st century skills in the classroom. And lastly, the weather when this research was conducted was not in a good condition that led to the fault in internet connection at some places. In conclusion, I found that Google Slides can help teachers to teach reading skills in the classroom. That's all from me. Thank you.
Next presenter, Nozatul Naziri binti Ibrahim Muhammad, with her final year project titled The Use of Relevant Digital Materials to Increase Learners' Participation in an Online ESL Classroom.
Hi and Assalamualaikum. Good day everyone. My name is Nozatul Naziri binti Ibrahim and today I'll be presenting my final year project entitled The Use of Relevant Digital Materials to Increase the Learners' Participation in an Online ESL Classroom. This study was conducted based on the researcher's experience as a trainee teacher at one of the schools in Kota Baru, Kelantan. Apart from that, the setting of the study took place in the online classroom through WhatsApp and Google Meet with for 4 students. The total number of the students was 16 students with low intermediate level of proficiency. The study focuses on the researcher's use of digital materials and determines the type of digital materials that can help to enhance the students' participation in the online classroom. The research objectives are: the first one, to identify the types of digital materials used by the teacher in an online classroom. Second, to investigate the impact of digital materials used towards the students' participation. The last one, to determine the best digital materials to be used in an online classroom to increase the students' participation. As for the research question, the first one, what are the types of digital materials used during the online classroom? Second, how do the digital materials influence the students' participation? The third one, what are the best digital materials that can help to increase the students' participation in an online classroom? The methodology, the researcher used the qualitative research approach. As for the research instruments, the researcher used a teaching video, transcription, and a reflective entry to gather the data. The study showed that the teachers use different types of digital materials in an online classroom, such as online games, Padlet, and YouTube videos. The result of the study proved that the best digital materials to increase learners' participation in online classroom is online games such as Kahoot and Quizzes. And that is all for my presentation for today. Thank you.
Next presenter, Nur Afifi Shakila, with her final year project titled The Use of CFR-Based Textbooks in Virtual Learning.
Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. My name is Nur Afifi Shakila and I am a semester 7th as a student from UPSI. Okay, now I will be talking about my final year project. Okay, so the title of my final year project is The Use of CEFR-Based Textbooks in Virtual Learning. Okay, back in 2020, the world has been shocked with the spread of COVID-19, and because of that, the education system must switch to online learning technique. Okay, and then so many technologies have been developed to help the teaching and learning process. And because of that, the use of textbook is assumed to be dull and traditional. Therefore, the problem statement for my research is to find out the importance of using CEFR-based textbooks in virtual learning as much as it is important in physical classroom. Okay, so there are two research objectives. The first one is to identify the necessity of using CEFR-based textbooks in virtual learning. Second of all is to find out how CEFR-based textbooks can be useful as online learning tools in virtual learning. And then the research questions. First is, why is it necessary to use CEFR-based textbooks in virtual learning? Second is, how CEFR-based textbooks are used as an online learning tool in virtual learning. Okay, so now the literature review in my research. Okay, I found that there are 3 learning theories that are related to my research. The first one is the cognitivism, connectivism, and also constructivism. Okay, now the methodology of my research. Okay, I used a mixed method, which is the combination of quantitative method and qualitative method. Okay, so for the quantitative method, I use a set of questionnaire, and then for the qualitative method, I use a self-reflective entry as the instrument. And from this, using this instrument, the data gathered, I analyze the data using descriptive statistic analysis and also mathematical analysis. Okay, so for the quantitative findings, okay, the questionnaire, the set of questionnaire that I used, I distributed to 20 TESOL students that has undergone their teaching practice from July to September 2021. Okay, and then there are 3 sections in the questionnaire. The first one is demographic profile of respondent. 70% is female and 30% is male. Okay, and then for section B is to see the necessity of using CAFR-based textbooks in virtual learning. 100% of the respondents said yes on the necessity of using CAFR-based textbook. Okay, for the section C is to find out how CAFR-based textbook can be useful as online learning tools in virtual learning. For this section, I use rating scales for respondent to either strongly agree or strongly disagree with the statements, to the 6 statements that I inserted in the questionnaire. Okay, for the qualitative findings, this self-reflective entry is written from the researcher perspective. Okay, so there are 3 questions, open-ended questions. Okay, the first one is to find out the reasons of on the use of CAFR-based textbook, and then second question is CAFR-based textbook as a tool in designing lesson activity, and then third question is about CAFR-based textbook as online learning tools. Okay, so I believe that my research implication on the education community is that the use of CAFR-based textbook in education must never be overlooked. By selecting CAFR-based textbook, education community may be innovative in turning these textbooks into online learning resources, which can help students feel more driven to learn. Meanwhile, for the public community, this textbook also aid in the development of language skills, which will benefit students in the future, particularly when they enter the workforce. Okay, so the CAFR has proved useful in classifying learners into their respective competency levels, which is important when seeking employment. Okay, for the future research, I hope that future researcher can focus on the usefulness of CAFR-based textbook in virtual learning that can also be used with other various instruments for the finding out the use of CAFR-based textbook in virtual learning. Okay, that is all from me. Thank you so much.
Our final presenter, Dina Hamidjatun Nisa, who is from Universitas Muhammadiyah Semarang, Indonesia, with her project titled A Transitivity Analysis of Students' Final Projects at Universitas Muhammadiyah Semarang.
I'm going to present a transitivity analysis of students' final project at Universitas Muhammadiyah Semarang. I got 2 research background as the basic of this research. Number 1 is the importance of writing a final project, and the second one is re-observation that I've done. We know that writing a final project is kind of a research, so we as a student quite must master at writing skill. And the second one is pre-observation. I've done that. I asked my senior, I asked them what most difficult when they write a final project, which part, and they mostly said that writing write the background, write the introduction is the most difficult one. This is the research objective. Number 1, to discover the dominant process, participant, and circumstances found in the research background of the student's final project. And number 2, to seek and identify the meaning represented in the research background of the student's final project by using transitivity system. In this research, I use qualitative method as the research design, and the research object itself is science students' research background of the final project. The research procedures that I've done, there are 4 steps. The first, the data were listed and analyzed by using transitivity. And the second step, each of the constituents were calculated and weighted in the table data analysis. And the third, the data were tabulated to get percentage, and the last, making an application based on the data. This is the finding of constituent of transitivity found in the student's research background. The most dominant process type that found is material, which is with frequency of occurrence 210. And the percentage almost 41%. And this is the most dominant constituent transitivity. This is the participant function, and they are actor and co as the participant of material type, process type, and they are 125 occurrence of actor and 188 occurrence of co-participant. And the finding of circumstantial, the most found in circumstantial is cause. There are 39 occurrence of cause circumstance. Based on that finding, I made the education both of English education and English literature students, and about the difference and similarity in meaning represented in their research ground. And the first dominant one is material process. Between English education student and English literature student, they have similarity to use this material process. They use material process to choose or make a decision that related to their final project. And the difference one is English education students use material process to describe the happening that might be occurs in the class or things done by teacher and student in the teaching and learning process. Meanwhile, when English literature students use material process to describe the object that related their project, which is they investigated such as movie, poem, or movie script, something like that. And the second dominant process is relational process between English education and English literature student. They use this relational process to describe the general topic of their research. And the different one is English education students. They describe knowledge of education, teacher, and then students for skill of teacher, and so on. And the English literature student, they use relational process to describe the knowledge of literature such as movie, poem, and theories related. Material process build the students' research background specifically to make it more alive. The students model the human as the actor, referring to I or the researchers. And the use of relational process is usually intended to describe purpose of each to assess the meaning. And the occurrence of career and attribute means the student's research background accentuate more on attributive clause. The students also put circumstances of cause because they want to avoid the subjectivity by their own opinion. And then by learning transitivity analysis, they may expand their proficiency of deciding vocabulary, tenses, or part of speech. The slide are about conclusion. The dominant constituent of transitivity, number one, process type is material process, and the participant is school, which is its material process type, and the third circumstances of cause, the most dominant one. And by realizing material process, students state their opinion and make it more attractive. And the second one, students also often put circumstances cause to avoid subjectivity by giving an expert or scientific data. Thank you for the attention.
We hope you have gained knowledge from our presenters. Please do join us for the keynote speaker session that will begin in a few minutes. Thank you and see you there.